And now it's the moment that we all look forward to every year. It's the presentation of the T. Boone Pickens Lifetime Sportsman Award. And the award is to recognize sportsmen who have distinguished themselves by living a life of adventure, a love of the outdoors, respect for natural resources, and most of all, those who have demonstrated a spirit of giving back and making it possible for others to enjoy the sporting life. Now, if you'll take a look at the both sides of the stage, over here to my right, also to my left, you'll see the past 15 honorees. And right here to my right is our beautiful award that was created specifically for us tonight by our honoree. Walter, did you ever think that you were going to create an award that you made for yourself? Was this carry-on, or how did you get this here? We're glad that you did this for us tonight, but this year we're privileged to be recognizing one of the greatest sporting artists of all time. And I've always believed that quail hunting is an art form. Think about this, guys. It really is an art form. Have you ever wondered why there are so many quail hunting paintings and sculptures? If you just get online and you do a search of quail hunting art, do you know how many hits you'll get back? 21 million. 21 million. That's more than duck, pheasant, grouse, and deer hunting art. And what you're seeing on the screens here is just a small sample of some of the art. I think this is it's really great looking stuff. I think all this came from Bubba's house. But I think about a quote we saw earlier from Gene Hill, and we want to put this back up on our screen. And if you're lucky, Gene said, if you're lucky, that's what a lot of quail hunting is. A series of lovely paintings that we walk into and out of all day long. Do you know that feeling? Walking into and out of those moments all the time, all day, and you feel like you're walking into that painting. And have you ever looked at your dog? I mean, just looked at your dog when he's pointed. It's such a good feeling, and it looked like the dog was frozen. You know, it looked like a bronze statue. I've been there, and I know that many of you have too, and I think about that. For those of you that haven't been there, I want to invite you into that scene, and I have a theory. Okay, let me tell you my theory. There are so many paintings and sculptures of quail hunting, and here's the reason I think there is because it's that sensation that we get, that sensation that's inexpressible. We want that artist to capture it for us. So when my friends ask me, hey, do you love this? Pete, you almost seem like you're obsessed with it. And I try to describe it, and sometimes I just don't feel like I'm doing it justice. And when I show them a picture of hunting, it doesn't give them the goosebumps like maybe it gives me or it gives you. So what do? We buy paintings. We buy sculptures that attempt to freeze that moment with all that heart-pumping excitement that we know it has. So as we look at this art on the screens right now, it takes us back to that moment, doesn't it? That moment that we love, that feeling that we love that we can't get anywhere else. And the same is true with books on quail hunting. I mentioned Chris Dorsey is here tonight. And Chris said it this way in a recent Forbes article about Park City's Quail Coalition. Did you see that story in Forbes? Chris said entire forests have been raised to print books about the lore and culture of quail hunting in the scrolls, written by legends named Babcock and Buckingham, the Old Testament of the upland sporting life. So when you see these pictures on these screens of these books that are just about quail hunting, and it's just a small sample of what's out there. I know Rick Snipes has a library of this, and Rick, I bet you've read every single one of those books, and I know you have them in your library. You think, look at those books there. And you think about it, publishers, what do? They publish books that people will buy, and people buy art and books on things they love, moments of magic and beauty. And as they enjoy their books and they admire their art, they're transformed into that memory of a dog, that memory of a friend, the memory of a covey rise, a moment. And the artist in our generation who's done the best job of capturing art of quail and dogs in action is Walter Matia. And if you look on your screen now, Walter did all of these. And Boone Pickens was one of Walter Matia's best patrons. And Walter's installation of the landing mallards in the dining room at Mesa Vista, there it is. That's one of the highlights of Boone's Ranch. It's such a beautiful work of art. And I will tell you this, I'm confident of this. If Boone were here tonight, I know he would be delighted that Walter is receiving this award. I know that no organization has a better friend, an artist in residence, than we have, and we're delighted to honor Walter Matia with this tribute video.
You know, I grew up in the suburbs of Cleveland, which isn't the most likely place to develop a love of the outdoors, but we butted a city park. I think I spent every afternoon of my life out in the back of that park. You know, we all got our Daisy Red Ryder at, 6 or 7 years old, so we had that, and the nights were, all summer long, just sort of riotous BB gun wars and everything else you can imagine. But that was sort of the only firearms in my world until I got to college.
Walter attended school at Williams College in Massachusetts, and his college buddy, Perk Perkins, introduced him to what the hunting life was all about.
Perk had basically grown up hunting and fishing. His dad, at that point, had just purchased the Orvis Company about 4 or 5 years earlier. Much of the fall, each year, every weekend that we weren't either playing soccer ourselves or doing something, we'd go up grouse hunting. The outdoors was just the whole thing. And I enjoyed the science of taxonomy.
Before college, growing up in Cleveland, Walter's mom encouraged his love of art and his exploration of the outdoor world.
From as long as I can remember, my mom took us down to drawing classes, either at the Art Museum or at the Natural History Museum.
It was at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History where Walter met his mentor and lifelong friend, Larry Izzard. And it was Izzard that suggested he try his hand at sculpting in 1980. Walter was hooked, and later in the 80s, he quit his job as a vice president at the Nature Conservancy to sculpt full-time and concentrate on wildlife art.
Catching those moments where an animal is first aware of you is one of the most powerful moments in sculpture. Somebody has to be a viewer, and it has to be evident that somebody's looking at this thing. In the situation of sort of wildlife art or animal art, you're trying to figure out, what do I want to include in this that's going to bring something to my viewer that they didn't know? Or what situation am I going to take or try to depict so that the people who really understand the situation are going to say, yep, he was there. He got that.
Walter's the best in the world. The detail and the attitude that the sculpture itself takes, you can look at it and say, I've seen my dog do that 1,000 times.
His artwork is just like you want to walk into that scene and be a part of it. It gets your heart pumping, I think that his ability to tell that story of what makes a quail flush so special or a bird dog slam on point so amazing, it's what drives us to the sport. You get hooked. You want that adrenaline rush, and you get that same thing when you look at his artwork. He captures that essence somehow, and it's like, wow, you feel like you're there.
You look at his work, and it triggers mental images of things that you've seen in your own life.
One of the moments that really told me that I was getting somewhere was when Bubba Wood called me up and said, I want to talk to you about your art. Because Bubba, he in fact knew the whole field. He knew what was good, what was bad. You couldn't fool him.
He's just better than everybody else. And he understands the subject, and he just gets the overall picture of anything he's associated with. He has a vision of where he wants it to go to, and we love everything he does.
Walter has spent his entire adult life in conservation, both professionally and through volunteering. In addition to the 11 years he spent at the Nature Conservancy, Walter has served on many boards. Bill Palmer, President and CEO at Tall Timbers Research in Tallahassee, Florida.
Conservation isn't different groups. We're a fabric, and we all kind of touch similar lives and similar things. And Walt's one of those threads that goes through that fabric and touches so many different conservation groups and has such an impact on making people realize how important it is to save this sport, how important it is to save quail. And, you know, you can't put a number on stuff like that. That's a lifetime achievement and a lifetime impact.
Larry Selzer, President and CEO of the Conservation Fund.
You realize that if you really care about these things, then you're going to try and do something about it. It's not enough to write about it. Frankly, it's not enough to do magnificent sculpture about it. That you have to be a practitioner. You have to jump in. Walter is uniquely positioned to reach such a broad audience through his art and bring them into the field of conservation. I think he's really a national treasure.
From Park City's quail inception, Walter has been heavily involved, not only by sculpting the bronze each year that goes to the T. Boone Pickens Lifetime Sportsman Award recipient, he has commissioned a number of pieces for our live auction that have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for quail conservation.
When Bubba basically got really excited about Park City's quail, and he and Boone, as much as anything else, decided, look, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. I took notice, because neither of those two guys were going to mess around with something that wasn't going to work.
And he's also produced our medallion series.
Bubba was really insistent that we brand Park Cities as the best. And the medallions were his idea. And then it became, wait a minute, by the time we're done with this series, it's really going to be something quite beautiful.
I think Walter's contribution to Park City's quail has been immense. He gave it a level of dignity and refinement that otherwise I don't think we would have.
He understands art. He understands the wildlife. So he's able to convey that through his art. I've bought 3 pieces over the years, and I treasure all of them. It's his generosity that helps make this annual banquet such a success.
You know, you walk into that room and you look at all those photographs up on the wall, and you realize that Park Cities has done a terrific job of bringing to the fore a tremendously powerful and interesting group of people. Knowing that they have a piece of my art it's terrific.
I had the opportunity to be at Ted Turner's home in Florida called Avalon. And in addition to all the awards he had, the Horatio Alger Award and awards from the United Nations on the shelf, the only thing he had sitting on his writing desk was the T. Boone Pickens Lifetime Sportsman Award. I think it's because he loved Walter's sculpture that much.
You know, I only knew well a couple of the guys who have received this award. And they are some of the best people I've ever met. Boone, to Bubba, to Rick Snipes. I mean, you just don't get more quality people in your life. And to be honored with this award that I know that some of the alumni, it matters.
Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the 2022 T. Boone Pickens Lifetime Sportsman Award, Walter Matia.
Walter, congratulations. So happy for you. You want to say something? Yeah. So Pete, I got up to walk up here, and my wife grabbed me on the shoulder, and she goes, "I don't know who that guy was in the videos, but do you think you could introduce me?" You know, this is when you wish you wrote things down. Look, this is really pretty wonderful, and I appreciate it. Although, before we get into this, there's a young man who is not here tonight, but who's been at like every other one of these things. Baxter Perry Miller, Matt and Elizabeth's son, has accomplished something really unbelievable. As a sophomore in high school, he was awarded really the highest honor of the Scouts, and he was given the Hornaday College Scholarship by the Campfire Club in New York City. And younger kids don't want to be recognized by adults because it's embarrassing, but it's really one of the great achievements. And Baxter, you're mostly the reason we do this. I'm up here tonight as much as anything else because of 5 or 6 older men in my life who got me committed to art and taught me how to hunt and fish, and really got me involved in committing myself to conservation for my entire life. Only one of them is still with us, I'm sorry to say, but Bubba Wood, who really is was your nominee or your honoree last year. And Bubba, it's been 30 wonderful, wonderful years. We've done a lot of really fun stuff, and I can't thank you enough. You're the best, man. Bubba accepted this award last year, and he spoke for, I think, about 93 and a half seconds. And it sort of set the standard for how you do this. But by the level of applause, I'm pretty sure his brevity was greatly appreciated. I'm not quite articulate enough to be that brief, and there's 1 or 2 things I did want to say about why I think what you're doing is so important. What Park City's doing, and with their partnerships with the different state agencies, and with its new partnership with Tall Timbers Research Center out of Georgia, has really moved the dial in quail conservation. About 18 years ago, I was driving to a foundry that I was working with on the eastern shore of Virginia. And it was about 6:30 in the morning, and I was driving across this great eastern shore river, the Choptank River. It's about a half-mile long, and at the time it had a little 2-lane bridge. And traffic was stopped, and traffic is never stopped on that bridge. And I was in a white Ford panel van, and I'm looking out over the cars, and there's 2 great big mute swans walking down the middle of the road. And there's one brave soul who had gotten out of his car, and he's trying to shoo these swans off the road and into the river so we could get going. But traffic was stopped, and I'm watching this circus, and I turned on the radio. And an article came up, a news item came up, that two guys in a bottomland hardwood forest in Arkansas felt that they had definitive video of an ivory-billed woodpecker. This is a bird that had not been seen in 80 years. It's a bird that the early settlers called the Lord God bird. And I listened to this as traffic finally got going again, and I got to the other side of the bridge as the article was ending, and I pulled over and I wept. Just the idea that in my lifetime I could see something that was thought to be gone. It was really an overwhelming feeling. Now, none of you are ever going to turn on the radio in Texas and hear that for the first time in 20 years, a wild bobwhite quail was heard singing. But if you guys lived in Massachusetts or Rhode Island or Connecticut or New York or Pennsylvania or Delaware or New Jersey or much of Virginia, much of Maryland, much of the Carolinas, the absolute heart of the range of the bobwhite quail, you've already heard that. And what you guys are doing is making sure that we don't hear it any other place. I don't, frankly, need to shoot another quail. I want to, because basically upland hunting has already given me the stories of my art, and it has led me to some of my dearest friends in the world. Upland birds don't owe me anything. But if we don't get this right, if we don't continue to expand re-expand the range of the bobwhite quail. If tall timbers and park cities isn't successful what you're doing, my son and my daughter and your sons and your daughters and the Baxter Perry Millers of this world, they're not going to basically find the passion. And you don't get the passion on a video game, you don't get the passion watching Animal Planet. You basically find the passion for this by burning up boots, sweating through shirts. Because basically, you know, we're in the long term. This is a long-term game. Every one of us, frankly, has to replace ourselves by someone else who is just as committed. And they're not going to get committed unless they have the passion of doing it. And so our job is to make sure that frankly, more and more kids take the path that we took. I'm very proud to be a small part of making sure that happens. So, thank you.
Hey, don't run off. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Getting a nice standing ovation. Very well deserved. Before you leave the stage tonight, every year we honor our honorees with a banner that will be up there, and just to the right of your buddy Bubba, I want to show what your banner is going to look like. Let's reveal that, please. There we are.
All right.
Walter Matia, everyone. Walter, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.